So, Valerie, do you know Dan Curran by any chance, or Daniel Curran? He's an opera singer that I've worked with before a few times, and maybe you have.
Is
I'm not sure.
his name sounds familiar, but I don't think I've worked with him.
Okay, so I was talking with him the other day because he composes music, like on the side, as you
As
do.
yes, as
I asked him, "Oh, what kinds of music do you do? Like, is it just classical? Do you do like a range of things?" And he said, "Yeah, I do a little bit of everything." Why? And I said, "Oh, because I have this idea for a podcast that I think you would be perfect for because I know you are also a fan of Supernatural."
Oh, wait. Okay, how'd you know he was a fan of Supernatural?
Oh, we've totally talked about it before. In
Okay.
one of the shows we've worked with, he was just like, whenever I say your name, Sammy, I just think of Sammy, Sammy,
Oh,
Sammy.
it's me. Okay.
And we share like little memes and stuff back and forth here and there. But so anyways, it's like, so I was thinking of like some kind of classic rock type of theme song, since that's basically the soundtrack of the whole show. Is that something you can do? And he's like, "Oh yeah, totally." And then not 24 hours later, he sent me this.
So, so he just whipped that up? He just like,
Just yep.
oh my God, that's amazing.
I know.
That is awesome, to quote Dean. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
awesome.
That's awesome. So he just composed that.
Yes.
That's not like taking music from somewhere
No, he made this up on his own.
for
Um,
you.
yes, well,
Oh
for
my
us. Yes, for us.
Oh my gosh, that's
I know.
amazing.
It's totally amazing and it's
Mm.
perfect. And thank you so, so, so much, Dan, for just
Hello, opera singers.
yeah, totally nailing exactly what I had in my head that
That's
I could
crazy.
not do on my own. So thank you, Dan.
That's awesome. That's
It's the
classic
best.
rock.
Hmm.
It's badass.
Okay, so that's a good segue into welcome to Salt and Burn This, a supernatural rewatch podcast. My name is Sammy,
I'm Valerie.
and we're just going to be watching the show from episode one, season one, all through the end, which there's 15 seasons.
Which I no spoilers, I still have not gotten to the end.
Oh, God. God, I cannot wait until you get there. Um, but anyway, we got a lot of content. So, we'll be doing this for a while, I think.
I can't wait.
Um, I started watching the show, I think in 2012 ish. My boyfriend at the time was really into the show, and I would just kind of like walk in and out, of the room. I'd linger a little bit longer each time he was watching, and finally I said, "Okay, stop. We gotta start from the beginning. I
What
gotta
is
know
this?
what's
What are
going
we
on."
watching? Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
loved it ever since.
Oh my god, that's so funny that you talk about walking in and out of the room and just kind of catching it. I did a lot of traveling for work, and so I was always in hotel rooms and different hotel rooms and different TVs. But Supernatural was always on, no matter what town I stopped in. Supernatural was always on TV, and so it's just a show that I always had on while I was like getting ready for work or coming home from work because it was just on. And I was like, who are these guys? And why are they always in the same hotel room but with different wallpaper? I was like, I just didn't understand it. But then the more I, kept it on, I started catching on to the storylines, and they're funny, they're adventurous, there's scary moments, and I was like, all right, I got to go back and figure this out. So kind
Yeah,
of did the same thing. It's like I watched it in bits and pieces, but I didn't watch the show from the beginning.
yeah,
I just kind of caught on, later on in the process, and then went back and have enjoyed it ever since.
right, right. And then a little bit about us as people. We have been friends slash coworkers slash like roommates on and off for a long time, like 10 years,
At
something like
least.
that. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Um, but the show is kind of like one of the things that we've bonded over
Oh,
a little
it
bit,
was
especially like living together sometimes during, work instances, or actually like, living together.
mhm, mhm. It was just something we figured out we had in common by accident.
Yeah.
by accident. It was like, "Oh, you watched that show? I watched that show."
Uh-huh.
And then it was just a nice escape because sometimes our work was very tedious.
Yes, for a little background, we both work in the performing arts, specifically opera, specifically the backstage of opera
Production,
production.
yes. Yeah. And
So
so
it
it was
yeah, go ahead.
definitely a nice break
Yes.
from opera.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just interesting that I felt much more connected. Like through the show, I was able to connect with you more because we weren't just work people; we were also people on
Yeah.
the show, and I think that
Mhm.
made a difference for us to be able to get ourselves out of our work bodies
Yeah,
and
I
into,
agree.
you know, adventure.
I agree. And
adventure.
since the trendy thing to do right now is starting a podcast, I thought, hey,
You are on fleek, Sammy. You are super trendy. Let's do a podcast. Did
yeet.
I just say on fleek? Is that
You
not
did
even
say
real
it.
anymore?
I don't think it is.
Alright, well, you can edit that out, right? You can
Sure.
make me sound cooler,
I will
Sammy.
definitely edit that out.
Make me sound
Um, but also I kind of did just want to like start from the beginning and like really give a nice amount of attention to the show finally, because usually now it's just like on the background or whatever. But and because we're in a pandemic and we can't be face to face or anything anymore, and there are no shows to be working on together,
right?
being opera. I thought, you know what, this would be a nice time to actually talk with another person that is not my dog.
Oh. Oh, we don't get to talk about our dogs? It is nice to be able to speak in a human voice and not in a, doggy foo-foo voice, which I admit I talk to my dog in all the time. So, Sammy, it's good to see your face and it's good to hear your voice.
Mm.
I just have to learn how to speak again.
Yes, me too. I don't know how to do words at all
Words, complete
anymore.
sentences. Yeah, well,
Hmm.
I'm here for you. I'm here for
Okay,
you.
me
We'll
too.
we'll make
So
the we'll
that being said, we're let's let's talk for an hour and a half ish.
All right,
So we'll get
everybody.
yeah. Here we go. Welcome to our first episode. Today we are going to be, mildly dissecting the first episode of the first season of Supernatural, titled "The Pilot." Uh, Description is two brothers reunite after 22 years after their father goes missing, trying to find the demon that killed their mother. This episode was written by Eric Kripke as the show creator as well, and directed by David Nutter.
Well, I was gonna say I want to take a second because you mentioned Eric Kripke. Um, this particular episode, I noticed a huge X Files influence on the show, um, and that's what kind of caught my eye as an avid X Files watcher. I
Hmm.
was like, "Ooh, this smacks." Of the X Files, and not in a bad way, but I saw like
Hmm.
there's little things that I noticed about the episode, and the first thing I noticed um, was the location card at the bottom of the screen that says like where this episode is taking place, and that
Hmm.
was a very X Files thing to do
Right, the
because
chirons.
yes, yes, exactly, and I was like, oh,
That was a term I learned from a very big TV person friend of mine. It was chiron. I was like, "What is that?"
nice. But yeah, so it starts out by saying that was it 22 years ago in Lawrence, Kansas, and I was like, ooh, a very X Files thing to
Hmm.
do.
Hmm. Right, right. I'd never watched the show X Files, but I would say that the font choices are very similar, if not maybe
Very
exactly,
similar.
of the chirons and other things like the title as well, or the title card. Okay, so we wanted to do like this little thing before we break down the episode, which is something that this was Valerie's idea, calling it a map quest moment, which, yes, is a very outdated piece of technology. But the show was made in 2005, and I feel like I was using MapQuest in 2005, so it's appropriate. Uh, Not to mention their use of like cassette tapes and things. These are very old tech guys, so we're gonna follow suit. But anyway, considering that these boys travel everywhere around the country, we just wanted to do a little uh, moment if the town that they're traveling in or living in or what have you relates to us in any way. And right out of the gate, as you mentioned before, it was set in Lawrence, Kansas, which was a town that I lived in and nearby for a very long time
Oh
in my
my
younger
gosh.
years. I mean, I lived
Yeah, see,
in,
I knew you were from Kansas. I didn't know it
yeah,
was Lawrence, Kansas.
yeah.
So crazy. I feel like I want to reach out and touch you right now.
But no, I lived the bulk of my like teenage years in Topeka, which is about 20 minutes away from Lawrence. And I went to KU for a small amount of time, which is in Lawrence, and lived there at the time. So it was pretty cool to see a show that was like, oh my God, it's set in Kansas. No show ever does that.
You're like, it's kind of like Santa, I
Yes,
know him.
Kansas, I know him.
Kansas, I know him.
So that was,
That's awesome.
yeah, so that was my little like connection with their physical place in that show.
So jumping around in the story, they start in Lawrence because like that's where their family grew up.
Yes.
Uh, and then we see the boys grown up
Hmm.
in Stanford,
Yeah.
which is California, and then they travel to Jericho,
Hmm.
California, which some people have argued is not an actual place, but it is.
Someone's argued that.
Yep. Yep. There's been, I hate to say it, but I did do some fan research.
How dare you?
Some I know, I did just because well, it sounded like a made up name to me anyway. So I was like, let's just look at what
Yeah,
Jericho
yeah.
is. And it is, it's a township. But that's what they're calling it, is a township or a settlement. They're not even calling it a
Uh-huh.
town.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, but it does exist.
So we open up with, of course, the Chiron that we've already been talking about for like 20 minutes of Lawrence, Kansas.
Kansas, 22 years ago.
Um, yes, 22 years ago. And this like spooky, spooky shot of this tree shadow over the house.
Right. But did you notice that the shadow actually moves?
Yes, I did this time.
Aha.
I never like you kept mentioning it, and I was just like, I don't understand what you're talking about, the shadow moving. But yes, it's like one little
One
branch
branch like
of the
ripped
tree
the
is like,
house.
what?
Yep.
That was like, ooh, that was
But that's how
spooky.
you know it's gonna be a scary show. Like,
Yes,
because when
yes.
I first started watching, I was like, it I didn't know what kind of show it was gonna be. There's
Yeah.
episodes, not to keep talking about the X-Files, but it's like there were episodes of the X-Files that actually were scary, like
Uh-huh.
in the sense of like scary movie scary. And so I didn't quite know what Supernatural was gonna be. So the fact that it started out with this like, okay, scary
Yeah.
moment, I was like, this is
Yes.
gonna be a scary show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then it continues, of course, with all the dark, moody lighting and the flickering lights and the baby monitor going off with what I assume was EMF
Right.
or whatever that ghosty
Ghosty sound.
thing is. Yeah, the ghosty sound.
EVP, I believe, is what they call it.
They call it EVP and EMF. There's like two different things. I don't know what
One
they
is
are.
like electromagnetic
Frequency.
frequency, and then EVP is something voice something.
We are really good at
It's
this.
so good.
I just wanted to mention because I did watch the commentary as well because I am a
Oh,
geek for
you
commentaries.
love the commentaries.
I do. In fact, I got this DVD set just so I could watch the commentaries as well.
Are you listening, marketing departments out there?
I know. Um, but they mentioned because the first shot, of course, is like on the baby. And they're just like, this is a game we like to call Count the Babies because it was like triplets that did not look like each other.
So, because you can only shoot kids for so many like minutes a day.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, that's too funny. And they don't
I know.
like, it's funny that you mentioned that because later on when they like in the franticness of some of the scenes, I was like, is that a different are we watching a different child now?
Right? Yeah, it's
Like,
so vastly different.
how many children do they have?
Right.
That's very funny. It's funny that that the filmmakers basically had to say, by the way,
Yeah.
we couldn't get three babies that all looked alike. That's really funny. So, you're talking about the like the lights flickering. And what's funny is, when you're watching the show and you see the characters reacting to what we know is something spooky, the lights flickering. We know that something bad is going to happen. But like the
Mhm.
characters on the show don't. And that always cracks me up. Like,
Right.
they go and, test the bulb. you know, maybe I just need to screw this bulb in a little bit tighter. It's like,
Right.
no, no,
Right.
don't. That's not it. Grab the kids
Yeah.
and run.
Here's the thing that I was thinking about, and I don't, maybe I should put a spoiler alert just in case there are people listening who have not seen the show. So, spoiler alert for like the next 30 seconds or so. But later on, we find out that Mary has grown up as a hunter. Like, she's known about this since she was very young. And then into her young adult years, and eventually, yes, she's just like, nope, don't want to do it anymore. But wouldn't her first instinct be, holy shit, there's a ghost in here?
Yes,
If she
exactly.
sees the lights flickering and
Exactly.
not like,
Baby
oh, I don't
monitor,
know what
lights
this. Yeah.
flickering. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. But maybe it was one of those because she had put it behind her so long ago
Yes.
that it just wasn't in her
That could be true. We'll give it
the
that.
benefit of the doubt. All right.
Yes.
So one more just nitpicky thing about wouldn't you think?
Mm, yep.
So excuse me. So in the same opening scene, like this is us learning of the history behind the family, the family tragedy. And the family tragedy is that Mary, is killed by a demon. But before that happens, Mary realizes there's something going wrong. So she runs upstairs to check on the baby, as most mothers would. Well, obviously because she saw a figure in the baby's room just minutes ago and didn't
Hmm.
realize that it was not her husband, John. So she goes running upstairs to check on the baby, and John is downstairs watching TV or has fallen asleep and is awoken by Mary's blood curdling scream, right?
Hmm.
So he goes running upstairs to go find out what Mary's screaming about, runs into the baby's room and stops because he doesn't see anything except a sleeping, gurgling baby. And,
Hmm.
walks up to the crib, pets the baby's head, and everything's fine. Where's the alarm of why did my wife just scream? It's like, where's my wife? Why was she screaming?
Right.
He's just like smiling and looking at the baby. And of course, that's when you realize that, something else is horribly wrong.
Yeah.
But in that moment of, oh, phew, everything's okay. It's like, no,
Yeah. Yeah.
why did the urgency stop just because,
Right.
she wasn't in that room screaming?
Uh-huh.
So anyway,
Yeah.
that was just my, "Hey, wait a minute" moments.
Right. And to give him the benefit of the doubt, maybe he just thought he was dreaming that she was screaming.
Oh, maybe because he was
That
TV.
Yeah, he was asleep in front of the TV. So that was my way of like, how would they explain it
Right.
away? But of course that was just a um I'm sure there's like a TV term for this, or like a script
That
term
we
or
don't know
character
about.
term for this, like a motivation, to go upstairs
Right,
and
right, right, right,
find the baby and the burning mother.
right.
Um,
Oh, and by the way,
yeah.
mom is actually on the roof, like,
So,
on the ceiling, stuck to the ceiling,
yes,
and bursts into flames,
dripping blood.
dripping
Yeah,
blood,
dripping blood
and
coursing into
burns the house
flames.
down with her
Right.
engulfed body. I I watched it this last time wearing my AirPods.
Uh huh.
And I don't know if you noticed, but like during the big, when you realize that the house is bursting into flames and stuff and
Hmm.
something's going horribly wrong, it's not just like scary music, but there's like howling and groaning and all sorts of
Oh,
like evil sounds that are like in there. It's not just scary music. There
yeah.
is a deep,
Ooh,
oh, yeah, it was, and I didn't realize it until, like, this last time I was watching, I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's not just scary music, it's
yeah.
evil." It was like the house was groaning or, the demon was groaning. You don't know there's a demon yet, obviously.
Right, right.
But yeah, so much the details,
Oh,
like
that's so interesting because I was watching it on my laptop, which is, not the best sound system in the world.
what?
M But wow, that kind of makes me want to maybe invest in a sound system, not just for the show,
Yeah,
but for other things,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
I'm sure that there's a lot of texture within music and sounds like that
yeah,
and like everything.
yeah. So just another one of those, wow, the details on this show,
Yeah,
good details.
right. But also, what the fuck was in that baby's room that made it explode? You know?
I made the baby explode or made the room.
No, the room. Because when they when he's like carrying the kids out away from the house,
Mhm.
and then like the fire turns into an explosion.
Well, most houses
It was
have,
demons, I guess.
propane. I don't know. Yes, it was the demon.
It was the demon. I was just like, what did they put in that baby's room that made it so flammable that it exploded?
That was before, flame-proof
Oh, right.
mattresses and flame curtains. And, you just got to be careful with the pyrotechnics that you leave in a baby's room.
Okay, so then we move away from the intro, or from the past, the flashback, I guess. Um, and then we see the next Chiron saying that we're in Stanford, which Sam went to Stanford. Wow.
Big brain. Yes.
Yeah. And then I wrote, this is how we know a bunch of men wrote the show, because Jess is in a sexy nurse costume. Like, not to say, I've had my fair share of sexy, fill in the blank costumes in the
Right.
past
For,
for
for Halloween.
Halloween.
Okay.
But
Dot 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 for
okay,
Halloween,
yeah, for
not
Halloween.
just lounging around the house.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But it was just,
The-
of,
of course.
of course, that's the opening shot of
Yes. Is
his new life, is her in a sexy nurse costume.
But it's not overdone. She's very sexy, but it's not,
Oh yeah,
you know, stupidly sexy. Oh my gosh. But we do learn that Sam, as an adult, or as I guess a young adult, uh, doesn't like Halloween for some reason. It's funny. They touch on that in this episode and then never again until like season 15.
yeah. I think you're right. You would think a show like this would have like a Halloween special all the time.
Right? Did they?
I remember, but Buffy did. Buffy had a Halloween episode almost every year,
Yep.
I think. I don't know. I guess we'll find out when we rewatch it, because there are so many things that I forgot about, like when it's on. Oh, I also noticed during this rewatch that there's a moment that Jess says something about crash and burning,
Oh,
which I was like, oh, that's a little foreshadowing moment. Again, spoiler alert, just
right.
in case.
Right. Well, it's what's funny is like going back and rewatching an episode, you're like, oh, foreshadowing, oh, foreshadowing.
Yeah. Yes.
If I,
Yes.
if I only knew what I knew now, then
Right.
it's but it's kind of it's foreshadowing, but you don't, because the show goes by so fast, you're not like, huh, I wonder why they said it like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
hit you
Yeah.
over the head
It
foreshadowing.
total no, it was a very, very subtle amount of foreshadowing. Okay, so then the next scene is when Sam hears like a crash downstairs, and he goes down there and starts beating up on this stranger. Then the lighting reveals that, oh, it's Dean,
Oh,
his brother.
it's his older brother who saved him from the fire when his mom burst into
Yes.
flames. Yes.
Yes, that one. My next note here is just, Dean is a fucking horn dog. Jesus.
Oh my gosh, my note literally says Dean is a douchebag. He hits on Sam's girlfriend Jess.
Yeah, right in front of him.
Yes. And doesn't stop.
No.
No, he says
He
one
just
thing
like,
and then moves on to the next,
yep.
creepy ass thing.
Oh
And
my
is
God.
staring at her.
It's so gross.
Bag. And then we have like a full scene of exposition.
Yes, exactly. Yes. That's also my next note, is exposition. Hunting to your poltergeist hiding in the dark in the closet.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. What's funny though, I've mentioned to you this before, that now that we see Sam and Dean as adults,
Mhm.
I it took me the longest time to stop thinking that Dean was the younger brother. And
Mhm.
can't really put my finger on it. I don't know if it's because Sammy always seemed more mature and because he was the one who went to college, and he wasn't a douchebag. Like he
Yeah.
didn't have that immaturity level that Dean has.
Yes.
That I always called the character Sam Dean. Like that's what always came out of my mouth.
Mm.
Like I know Dean is the older brother, but I always saw it. It was so hard.
Jared Padalecki as the
Yes,
older
as
brother.
the older
Right.
brother. So it took me a long time to undo that in my brain. And again, I don't know if it
Yeah.
had to do with the actors or the character.
Yeah, I can see that. Although that's funny, because in the commentary, the commentary was by Eric and David, the director and the writer. They mentioned that Dean had read for the part. Sorry, Jensen had read for the part of Sam, and he was kind of slated to be Sam until Jared came in, and then they said, "Oh wait, no, Jared is much better suited for Sam, and Dean has to be." Or Jensen, oh my God, Jensen has to be Dean, because they wanted like a Luke Skywalker and Han Solo kind of relationship, but Jensen definitely had the kind of smart
He had the
ass quality,
swagger.
the Harrison Ford swagger of Han Solo. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't picture him as Sam at all. Like
No,
how they
no.
even, saw him as that. But I guess maybe before obviously I've only really seen him as Dean, even though he was like, what was he on? He was on Smallville, I think.
Maybe, or like a soap opera, I
Was
think.
on a soap on Smallville. So, but I've only seen
I'll have to
him,
look.
like I only know him as Dean. So I just know him
Right.
as like the smart aleck, swagger,
Mhm.
reluctant Han Solo hero. And I love that. I love that he's like the Harrison Ford character.
Days of Our Lives is what he was on.
He was not.
Yes, he was.
Oh my gosh. Do you know that I scheduled some of my college classes around Days of Our Lives?
Oh,
I
why am I friends with you?
know. Think I only did that for one semester though.
Okay, so yes, about this exposition is where they vaguely touch on they hunt ghosts because they mention like a poltergeist and things that are like hiding in the closet, shoot them with a
Right.
45,
Right. And
blah blah blah.
that their dad trained them to be
Yes,
hunters.
giving us a primer of basically who they are, what their family is, and blah blah blah.
Right.
And then my next note is Sam's hair is so cute, and their voices are like an octave higher.
It is cute hair.
It's so cute. That's probably one of my like favorite hairstyles that like boys did and
Yeah.
that trended with.
Yeah. Jared Padalecki's hairstyle never really changed. I mean, it just grew longer, right? Throughout the series. Sam's
I
hair.
would say it stayed. This is the shortest it was.
Mhm.
Is in this first season and maybe the second season as well. And then it kind of maybe is it like an inch difference every now and then,
Mhm.
but it's shaped different a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I would
He
say
went
like sometimes they have the layers different or it's parted in a
Yeah.
different way,
He
and he's
lost
got
the
like
bangs.
at one point he had these like weird kind of pointy sideburns, that
No.
yes he did.
Oh, no.
Yes he
Oh my
did. I
gosh.
don't remember what season it was,
Okay.
but it'll come
I
around
can't
and I'm
wait.
going to point it
Uh,
out to you.
but what's funny is that Jensen's haircut never changed.
No, it's exactly the same.
No, it never changed. They may have parted it slightly differently, but depending on
Yeah,
who
who was possessing him at the
exactly,
time.
but his
Hmm.
hairstyle never changed.
Okay, so then the next scene, they are at the car.
The car.
The infamous Impala, the baby, but we don't know yet how much he loves his car.
Correct.
It's just,
It's dad's car. Yeah.
yes. But then they open the trunk, and that's when you're like, whoa.
Yeah. The trunk where they like this turns out to be like their lives is the trunk of the
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got like a small arsenal in the trunk, which do you want to travel with an arsenal? Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe during these times, maybe you do.
Right. But it's like totally homemade. I mean, it's like axes and, rifles and a shotgun. There's nothing high tech. You would think that they talk about hunting, ghosts and poltergeists and stuff like that. You think that there'd be some sort of, you know, equipment.
Like a goat, yeah, like a Ghostbusters weapon
Yes,
or something
exactly.
like
And
that.
there's not. It's all just stuff that you'd like grab out of the garage or the woodshed.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Baseball bat.
Exactly. And the commentary mentions exactly that. They said that they really had a desire for quote unquote blue collar weapons,
Oh,
just kind of beat up, obviously used kind of pieces or homemade type of bombs, things
right.
like of that nature, not the high tech computer. What's that guy's name from James Bond? Q,
Oh,
like
cute,
nothing
right?
Q would, yeah, Q would create. They don't have a Q. They have
They have the woodshed.
themselves the woodshed and stolen credit
Right.
cards.
That's right. That's how they make their I can't say make a living. That's how they survive is on stolen.
Yes. Yes. But I also want to mention that while they're like looking through the news articles about all the missing people, those are prop guys on the pictures.
Oh my god, the props guys inserted themselves into the show.
Yes. Yes.
That's so prop department.
It
That is
is.
not just a TV props thing. That is all props people
Yep.
everywhere.
Yep.
everywhere, and that's awesome. It's
It is awesome. I would do the exact same thing if I were ever part of the props department.
yes, it's also it's like if you ever see wanted posters in a shot in any show,
Uh-huh. Yep.
chances are it's either someone's dad, like from the props
Yeah.
department, or it's the
Yeah.
props department that have just made themselves criminals and put
Uh-huh.
themselves up on the wanted posters.
Uh-huh.
Very funny.
Yeah. And then they did talk about EVP coming through that voicemail because I made a note of like, what the fuck is EVP?
Clearly, we still don't know.
No.
But so EVP, I know it is the voice. It's like whatever underlying voice you find in a
I see. Okay.
um so there, because it's a recording of the dad. It's a voicemail that the dad left. It's not a voicemail. It was a message on the answering machine
Oh
or
yeah.
voicemail because it's a cassette tape.
It is a cassette. It's
It,
one of those
it's
tiny
one of
little
those little
cassette
throws. So
tapes.
it's from an answering
Yes.
machine.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it's like it's a message from their dad, but underneath it is the EVP, and that's the creepy voice that they if you turn down dad's voice, you hear the ghost or the EVP creepy voice. And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
gonna say that always freaks me out. Anytime
Oh
there's
really?
the underlying, the other side creeping into our reality,
Uh-huh.
that scares me to death. And
Oh.
I don't know. I'm gonna tell you just a sidebar. Um, the reason it creeps me out is I have my own ghost story, and
Right.
it's a short one, but there's a ghost. Okay, maybe there's not a ghost, but I've had an experience where I've heard my name called when there's nobody else around. I'll just put it
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I've heard something say Valerie and not Val, but my full
Uh-huh.
name, Valerie. And I'll turn around and be like, "Yeah. Oh, there's no one there." It's happened to me twice in life. So anytime there's those like EVP, like you heard something underneath,
Uh-huh.
I'm like, "Oh, is that something Valerie?" So so EVP, scary stuff. Scary stuff.
Okay.
Scary stuff.
EVP is scary stuff. Okay.
And what's the creepy voice saying?
Copy that. Oh, it was saying, what was it saying? I can never go home or never
Oh,
go home. Yeah.
yep. Creepy. Still a scary
Very.
show.
It's
Still
still a very scary
a scary
show.
show until you get to the part where there's a guy you don't know driving a
Mhm.
VW Rabbit.
Right, exactly. Although before we get to that,
Oh,
there was something I wanted to mention. It was something I caught for the first time here,
oh,
where Sam is packing up his bag in front of Jess, and um, she was just like, "Wait, so your dad's on a hunting trip or whatever?" And Sam says something like, "Yeah, and I'm sure Jim, John, and Jose are with him." And then earlier he says something like his dad is like working overtime on a Miller time shift. So was their dad a drunk? Was that
I think they were just portraying him as a drunk, which is
Yes, that
why.
was, and it was like, is that something that Sam was just telling Jess, to make an excuse of why he wasn't around? Or maybe was it a character trait that they did give John, in the pilot that they then decided not to have? Because pilots do that sometimes in shows,
Sure.
where like the characters kind of change, once they
Figure out
really,
who the characters really are. Yeah.
yes, yes. I don't think it was that, but it was just like interesting. I never caught that before.
Oh, see,
How he portrayed him as a drunk.
I always just thought it was a throwaway so that he could, be like, "Well, dad's drunk again, so we gotta go help him," which is why he can't help himself.
Okay, so back to VW
Oh, it's
Rabbit
just
or
just
whatever. What is it?
it's either a VW Rabbit or a cabriolet,
Okay.
depending on the year. But,
Okay.
I just think it's funny that it's a guy who's like, it turns out he's kind of a douchebag himself, um, and it's just a silly little car. It's a silly little car that later is used as, not a silly little car, but it still comes
Yeah.
across to me. I'm like, "Ugh, you can't be it can't be like the getaway car. It can't be the car
Yeah.
speeding away into the night because it's like me. I mean, it's a little car. My sister had one in college. This is not
Mhm.
the butch guy's car. So
No.
that when I saw that, I was like, and that kind of took me out of the scary moment.
Okay, so now we see our first creepy character. She glitches like right away.
Yeah, super scary.
Unnatural,
Yeah.
supernatural,
Dun,
if you will.
dun, dun. Uh,
And we see it's Sarah Shahi, who I have seen on the L Word. She plays Carmen.
what? Oh my gosh.
Yes. And she was fantastic. I really loved her in L Word. And the commentary, they mention her in L Word too. They're just like, oh, we really liked this girl from L Word.
Oh my gosh.
Wanted her.
Good work gets you good work, I guess.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So she's the ghost.
Yes, she is the, well, what we assume is a ghost because she
She
glitches.
glitches. She looks like oh, a glitch. I was trying to think of it like, you're because you're it's hard to say nowadays because nobody has antennas on their TV. But back in the day where you were still before cable, we had antennas on our TV, and the
Uh-huh.
signal, if it was like a windy day, the signal would glitch, and so you would get that type of imagery. Which
Mm.
usually went hand in hand with something scary happening outside. If it was stormy and windy, your TV started to glitch.
Then the dude in the rabbit pulls over and says, "Hey, what are you
I know.
doing?"
What's
And she very sultrily says, "Take me
take
home."
me home? And he says, okay.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
After telling what we think is his girlfriend that he has to go home and get some sleep. He has
Yeah,
to get up
yeah.
early to work. So
Yeah.
already we know he's a jerk.
Dean's a jerk.
And so he ends up taking her to her house, which of course is like the scariest house you've ever seen.
Yes, it's dilapidated, like farmhouse. It's
No
broken
lights.
and gray and yeah.
no, no lights. And he's like, no, but you don't live here.
Hmm.
And then, she's out of the car and he's like, oh, well, he stupidly follows her
Into this creepy
creepy
house.
house. It's another one of those, we know it's scary. Why don't they?
Uh-huh. Yes.
And so you're expecting it to be scary. We are expecting this to be scary. I hate moments like that when you know something's going to be scary because guess what happens next?
Jump shot.
Jump shot. Yes, exactly. A bird flies out of the house and scares the crap out of not only the
Him,
guy,
but
but out of us.
us. Yeah, exactly.
And you knew it was going to happen.
Mhm, mhm.
And so you're like, oh, but it was just a bird.
Scurries away into the rabbit and drives away, into
Peeling
a,
out.
yes, it peels out in the rabbit and into a road closure sign, of course. But I think
Yes.
she's in the car by then. I think she hops
That
back
yeah,
into
I
the
think
car.
yeah, and I think that's what scares him is that he looks into
Yeah.
his mirror and sees this chick is now in
Uh-huh.
the back of his car again, and so he swerves off the road, and it happens to be through the bridge out sign or
Yes.
road
Yeah.
closed sign.
Onto the bridge. You hear screaming, the car shakes a little bit, and then you see the very first blood
The
splatter
splatter.
of the show.
The splatter.
I thought there were just two. There are actually three blood splatters in that car.
What? I only
Yes, there was one on the front window, and then both side
oh,
windows.
I only saw the front and one side window.
Yep,
Wow,
yep.
that's a lot of blood.
Yes.
Yes, and spoiler alert.
Oh yeah.
It kind of becomes which you pointed out to me becomes the like through line of every single supernatural, not only opener but opening credits.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
not just part of the cold opening of every supernatural, with the exception of a couple.
Yeah. There's not
Um,
very many. There are fewer that don't have a blood splatter than that do.
but the splatter becomes like
A running theme or
yeah, it's like
trope or
trademark almost.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Exactly, a trademark.
But yeah, you pointed it out to me. And it wasn't until you did that I was like, oh, you're right. And then I started looking for it. And then every time I saw it, I was like, yes. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine being on the effects, you know,
Oh my god, I
the
would love
makeup
that.
department and effects that got to splatter people,
Oh my god, that would be the best.
splatter
That would
walls? I mean,
that would be the best makeup job ever.
I'm just picturing the director saying, I need more.
Yes.
I said bigger.
After the splatter, it then cuts to what I assume is the next day. And the brothers are at a gas station and Dean buys himself lunch, which consists of
Pork rinds and
yeah,
was it like
two
jerky or
I
something?
don't know. I saw what I thought were Doritos, or probably like a,
Fake.
yeah, fake Doritos, and another kind of bag of chips, maybe like some Mountain Dew
Mhm.
or
He does offer
Sprite.
to share though.
He does. And then I have a note that says LOL bootleg cassettes.
Well, yeah, because they're like filling up the car, and Sam's going through a box, like a shoe box full of cassettes. And it's funny that we have to call them cassette tapes because you either call them cassettes or you call them tapes.
Yeah.
But to let everybody, those younger people in the audience, know it's a cassette tape.
Yes.
Um, that's funny. Yeah, all these they're not I guess you could call them bootleg now, but they would be pirated tapes because it's all of Dean's music,
Yeah.
but none of it is store-bought music. It's all handwritten
Yeah.
label.
Yeah.
So it's either he made his own tapes, like recorded off the radio, which is what a lot of us
Yes.
people did.
I did
Um,
it too. I had plenty of recorded radio cassettes,
oh my gosh. And
mixtapes.
mixtapes, specialty tapes that you made
Yes.
for like for on the road or
Hmm.
going to school or you always had a theme to your
Yes. Love
tape.
songs, or I don't know,
Yes.
whatever.
Yes, but all of Dean's tapes are like bootleg slash pirated.
Hmm.
Like what does he call it? Mullet rock, which is
Sam
funny
calls it
because
mullet rock.
yeah, because it wasn't all mullet rock. That's
No.
that's the other thing. I took exception to that because it was rock.
Yes.
It was just rock. But yeah, Metallica, Motorhead,
Black Sabbath.
Black Sabbath. Yeah. Clearly the Impala just has a, AM FM cassette.
He had no desire to upgrade
Right.
the stereo system.
He was fine.
And then at 17 minutes, 2 seconds, or roughly, it was kind of hard to pinpoint the exact timestamp on Netflix on my laptop. But this is where we hear like one of these iconic lines that have just kind of stuck through the show and the fandom. Driver picks the music, shotgun shuts his cake hole, which is just
Yes.
funny.
It made it down to
I
t-shirts like right
know.
away.
It's kind of amazing
Yeah.
that in the first episode there were a few
Yeah.
things that happened that just kind of stuck and became
Yes.
like things, quotes and
Yeah, they became supernatural
yes,
isms.
isms, exactly.
And then they drive off to music that no one's ever heard of before.
You're right. I did not know this song.
I was like, "What?
It was
That could have been."
what was it? It was Loveless, A Gift to the World.
Yeah.
No,
Who?
I don't know.
What?
I'm sure there
Could
are people out there who do know. I am
Yes.
not a music
I was
aficionado.
I was not one of them. It could have been like an amazing southern rock
I
moment.
assume that had to do
Okay.
something with money,
Oh, right,
yeah,
buying rights.
which they later on, I guess, found more money for that kind of
I
thing.
think they found I
Yeah.
think they did. Well, because I did read that, speaking of money and
Hmm.
budgets and stuff like that, one of the things they cut from the show, originally was that Dean's character was supposed to have
Yes. Yeah, you
tattoos.
did say that.
He was supposed to be yeah, he was supposed to be tatted, like, up and down, but they just didn't have the budget for the makeup to either whether for the temporary tattoos or for the time that it took to tat somebody up for the episode. They're like, so they just cut it. So as a character, I mean, that's a pretty big character
Yeah,
note,
I would say so.
that got cut. So um, if it's not in the budget, it's not in the budget. But I can't picture him with tattoos like artistic tattoos. Like I can't picture him with
Yeah, knowing like having been with him for like so long now, it is kind of hard to picture him with just really any kind of tattoo besides the one that he
ends up with.
the one that he has
Yeah,
that
yeah,
has a very very specific purpose.
correct.
But even if he had tattoos that like meant something to him, or even just like decorative ones, no.
Hmm.
I mean, I guess it wouldn't really matter. You don't judge a book by its cover, as I.
No, but I do think there's a personality. I think there's definitely a
Yeah.
personality type. I mean, and it's not just one personality type, but I do think that there's people who get tattoos and then there's people who don't get tattoos. There's
Hmm.
people who think about getting it and then don't, and then
Hmm.
people who never even think about it. So it's you know it would be interesting to see what they would be. what his character would have been like had he been a tatted character.
Because now here comes like a shining moment for both you and Eric Kripke.
Me and Eric, we're tight. We're tight.
Yes, yes. Um, where they're on the bridge, talking to the cops, trying to get a lowdown of the situation.
The
Um,
splatter. Yes.
of the splatter, which is no longer there on the car. Like it's all cleaned off.
Well, the ghost
So
took care of that because she
yes,
took his body too.
yeah, she's
So she
very thorough
trust me,
ghost.
mopped up. Yeah. Licked those windows clean.
Yes. So then we see two.
They're FBI.
So then Dean says,
See you later, Mulder, Scully.
"Yep."
They're both men standing there. But yes, total shout out, like point blank X-Files call out right there.
Mhm, mhm,
Yep. And I
mhm.
loved it. I loved it. I was like, yes, my people.
Yes, so did Eric Kripke, but he had to fight to keep that in.
I wonder if they thought it was too like inviting a TV show into their reality type of thing.
Yeah, maybe. But I know when I heard that, n- you know, knowing as little about the X Files as I do, I know the main
Or
character's
Sculler
name.
and Moldy.
Yeah, I
Okay.
know Scully Molly.
Sculler and Moldy, I just said.
Oh,
Scully.
that's okay. You know what? I have Sculder and Molly written on my notepad. So maybe I don't know
Maybe you don't
anything
know them at all.
about the
I mean,
X
I
Files.
just got tongue tied. You actually wrote it down.
I
So,
wrote it down. Yeah.
yeah, Scully and Mulder are the names we're looking for.
But anyway,
That's
when I
amazing.
did hear when I did hear that first time, I was like, I wonder if that was something they snuck in, if that was like an ad lib that the actors did.
Oh,
I didn't know until I
oh,
listened to the commentary, and
but
then
it was
Eric was just
intentional.
like, I wanted that. It was absolutely intentional, but I had to fight. Well, no, what's the word? I'm sidebarring again. The guys in Angel that they kept referring to, powers that be,
The
powers that be.
powers
I
that
had to fight the
be.
powers that be
Oh my gosh.
to keep this in.
And for anyone listening, we are going to reference Buffy, Angels, The X Files,
Hmm.
and many other shows down the road.
Okay, so now they're in town and they meet up with some locals to get the scoop.
Yes.
And they find these two girls who look like they're from the craft, which is pretty awesome. And one of them starts talking about the local legend of this woman
The
or,
ghost.
or someone, some ghost, someone who was murdered. And anytime there's or a hitchhiker, I think she mentions a hitchhiker.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
hitchhiker was.
She was murdered, and now her ghost haunts this stretch of road, and anyone
Mm-hmm,
who picks her up gets killed.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Sounds about right.
mm-hmm. Which I love that they incorporated like local legends and myths and spooky stories that are maybe even just
Could
uh
be true.
could be true. Yeah. Here's an interesting thing that I may be mistaken because the first time I did watch this, which was on the DVD, both the episode and the commentary
Mhm.
was on the DVD, and then watched it again recently on Netflix for our redo here. There is this, I believe I am correct in saying that there is a scene during this part that was on the DVD, but not on Netflix. That I don't believe was a deleted scene. I think that it was part of the show. I may be remembering that wrong because I did watch some of the deleted scenes, but so they're at this table for a lot longer. And Sam comments on the pentagram necklace that the one girl is wearing.
Oh, yeah, that's not in
It's
this.
not on the DVD, no. Or I mean,
It's
sorry,
not on Netflix.
it's not on Netflix, but I remember watching it, which I
Huh.
believe it was on the DVD as part of the show. He mentions the necklace, and she was like, "Oh yeah, my boyfriend got it for me as kind of like a joke from my parents, to freak my parents out or something like that." And then he goes on to say, "It's like, well, actually, it's kind of the opposite. The pentagram is a symbol to ward off evil spirits, um, or protection against evil, blah blah blah." Which is like an interesting little tidbit because then that's like a little more exposition into them like how much they actually know
Actually
about
know
this
about
kind
the
of
occult and
stuff.
stuff like that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's like
That's really
interesting.
cool. No, that's not on this episode.
No,
It's not on the Netflix. I wish they had kept that in.
I
I
know.
wonder why they took it out.
I don't know. You
Right?
know what that happens sometimes? Because another brief sidebar on The Office Ladies, which is another podcast that I listen to, who are two actors from the show The Office who are doing kind of something similar, doing a rewatch and an analysis, but from an actor's point of view. So, like, they know a lot of inside info. But one of them will watch the DVD and one of them will watch the Netflix show. And
Oh.
often, or maybe not often, occasionally, there are scenes that it is on one but not on the other, or they're different, like just vaguely, vaguely different. And I do not
Different
know why
like
that
different
is.
takes?
Maybe different takes. Yeah. Like it's kind of the same scene, but like one or two lines are different, or maybe one is more extended than the other. I don't know why they do that. It must be part of the contract or
Boy, I don't know. I mean, I've heard of shows changing music
uh-huh.
because they didn't have the rights to do it on like simulcast. Like they bought the rights to the music to be on DVD but not to be on like a Netflix type of show.
Right.
So they changed the music. So what you see on TV on Netflix, or on streaming I should say, because it's
Uh-huh.
not just Netflix but on
Yeah.
streaming, um is different than what's on the DVD. So they actually have to go in and re-edit
Yeah.
the show because of those things. So I wonder if there was something like that in the episodes that they had to change for those contracted purposes. I don't
Right.
know.
I don't know either. Yeah, it
Interesting.
was really interesting because I was watching it and I was like, this seems shorter than what I remember. And I know they talk about the necklace. I know that they do. There you have it.
That's interesting. Okay, well now this means that you have to go back for every episode we talk
I
about
know.
and watch both
I know.
the streaming version and the DVD version.
Yeah.
And then you don't need me at all.
No, it's not true. Who's going to point out all the X File references to me?
Oh, okay. All right. Well, there's fewer and fewer of them, so I might be out of luck here soon. But going back to the legend that they
Yeah.
talk about, it's interesting because the girls talk about the murdered girl. She was
Mhm.
murdered on the side of the road. Uh, but then when Dean and Sam start researching, women who have been murdered
Mhm.
on the side of the road, nothing comes up. And it's Sammy who figures out, who's like, well, maybe they talk about like what makes a ghost, and
Yeah.
it's some sort of like tortured spirit or born out of uh oh, Valerie, my thought just went out the window. Like a tortured soul,
Yeah.
like a tortured soul. um and so Sammy's the one who's like, well, maybe she wasn't killed, maybe she killed herself, and if she killed herself, why would she have killed herself?
Yeah.
And that's when they come across the legend of the white woman, or the woman in white, white lady, woman in white.
Well, no, they don't do that yet. That's not until they reach their dad's hotel room.
Oh, that's right, that's right, that's right. Then
So right
he's
now
like,
they
"Back
just
you up."
figured out it's like, okay, we know it's a tortured soul, but what's going on here?
Right,
What's the connection between all of these men
right.
that's going on?
But he does point out the suicide.
Yes. And I think
The
that was
suicide.
his little lawyer mind working there, trying to
Yes,
figure out, outside the box
right.
things. That was totally his college brain in action.
Yep.
Okay, so then they go looking, in the area of like where the
Where she
um
committed suicide. They
where
went
sh
to the
yes, where she committed suicide, and also which is the same bridge that the
just happens to be
the blood splatter car.
right. Right, which also comes up to one of my favorite moments, which is they're standing looking over the edge of the bridge, like looking down into the water, and they're
Uh-huh.
like, "Oh, this is where she jumped from."
Mhm.
And then, like in the distance, you like hear like the car engine
Yeah.
turn over, the headlights turn on, and they both like turn and look, and they're like, "Huh."
Yeah.
And again, watching, I'm like, scary moment. Your car just started by itself. It's a very Christine moment. Did you ever
Mm,
see the movie Christine?
no, no, I didn't.
Read the book Christine? All right, Stephen King, possessed car. Basically drives itself and runs
Uh-huh.
people down. It
Uh-huh.
kills people who it because it falls in love with its owner. The car falls in love with the
Oh,
driver.
I've seen parody things on
Yeah.
that, but yes.
Um, but yeah, so this is a total Christine moment. So anyone, who's seen Christine is like, oh my gosh, this car is just gonna run them down.
Uh-huh.
Do these guys know this?
Right.
No.
No.
And they're just like looking at the car, and Sam's like, who's driving your car? And Dean just like casually pulls the
Pulls out
keys out of
his
his pocket and he's like, got the keys right here. It's scary, but it's funny at the same time,
Yeah,
at least for me.
right. No, it was funny.
And the car speeds down the bridge
Mhm.
to run them down.
Right. And they cannot run fast enough because they are people and it is a car. So
Yes.
they do the only
So
other
they
option and jump off the bridge.
and of course, one brother leaps fully off the bridge. The other brother just leaps far enough to be able to like turn around, grab the bridge, and
Uh-huh.
not jump into the water, which
Yeah.
also cracks me up.
Yeah.
And who is it who hits the water?
It's Dean. Dean gets
It's
all muddy.
Dean. The super
Uh-huh.
cool guy
Yep.
ends up completely covered in mud.
Yes. And in the commentary, they did mention they did want them both to be in the mud, but
Oh yeah,
it was exponentially funnier to have just one of them be in the mud.
I would say
I know.
absolutely
Yes.
yes. And the fact that it's Dean makes it all the funny because he's
Yeah.
like the cool guy.
Uh-huh.
He's like the flipped up collars.
Yep.
He's got the, razor sharp hair. Oh, I even made a note about that. Dean, muddy, not Sam. Look at that. We're on the same page.
So they go to the nearest motel.
Thank you.
Dean's still all muddy, and they use one of the stolen credit cards. And then the old guy there was just like, "Do you have any reunion with this?" I don't even remember the last name.
Oh,
Something
it
uncommon, and
it's a yeah.
I do
It's
not want to insult by trying to pronounce it.
no, that's okay. I couldn't. Apparently, the actors couldn't pronounce it the same way twice, anyways.
Right. Um. So then, of course, they realize, oh, Dad's been here since he's checked in for an entire month.
And this is the closest they've gotten to their dad.
Yes. They pick the lock to his hotel room, open it to find what kind of looks like a serial killer room.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. It's one of those like there's pictures and magazine cutouts all over the
Yes.
wall and strings
Yes.
connecting, this picture to that article and yeah, totally serial killer crazy person's room.
But within all the serial killer stuff, they do find he figured it out. He knows what this woman is, and it's a woman in white.
Dun dun.
hmm
Yes, and a woman in white is not just someone who committed suicide, it's someone who uh kill committed suicide because their husband or their boyfriend cheated on them.
hmm
Um, and then I think there's another part of the story where they kill their children in
hmm
order to gain the attention from their husband or boyfriend. And then when they're denied again the attention that they're seeking, that's when they kill themselves.
Yeah. So this woman in white story here is a little bit of a combination of local legends
Hmm.
just to suit this purpose, and that's okay.
It's funny though. I had never. I was listening when they would, because they always have to tell you like what it is they're looking for, like
Yeah.
this ghost. Why is this
Uh-huh.
supposed to ghost? I was like, is there like a story that I know about this one?
Mhm.
No,
No, I don't either.
I hadn't heard. This never came up in any of my
No.
ghost stories around the campfire.
No, me neither. So then they say, "Great, we're gonna go find it," and then Dean immediately gets caught by the cops.
Great, we're gonna go. Oh,
Yep. Yep. So he gets caught, but he gets to warn his brother just enough to. Oh my God.
you jumped
I
over a
did
moment.
jump over a moment. How rude of me.
I know. I was gonna let you go too.
So we come across another supernaturalism moment here that has lasted from the beginning
Okay.
until the end. On t-shirts, it's on the sticker you gave me that's on my laptop right now. At approximately 27 minutes and 40 seconds, we get jerk.
Bitch. But it's said in a way that like breaks tension. You know,
Yeah.
it's two brothers just fighting with each other,
Yeah.
not meaning it. It's clearly what they've called each other all their lives.
Right.
Jerk,
Bitch.
bitch, and it like ends the tension. Um, but just before that, there's also one other ism,
Oh yeah, the no chick flick moments.
and it's not as big an ism because
Yeah.
it's not mentioned that much. But it's when it is mentioned, it's it is a callback.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, no chick flick moments when Sam is apologizing to Dean about saying that. And I didn't realize this, but Sam has said like when they were fighting, he's
Mhm.
like, mom's dead,
Yeah.
mom's never
Yeah.
coming back, type of thing.
Mhm.
Um, Dean clearly believes that she's not dead and that there's a chance they could still find her, and it's not spoken. He doesn't say it. I mean, he
Mhm.
doesn't say that, but he's like, "Don't talk about mom that way."
Yeah.
And so later with the whole, Sam apologizes saying, "Look, I'm sorry I said about what I said about mom for what I said about
Mhm.
mom." And that's when Dean says, "No chick flick moments."
Yeah.
It's like, "Okay, we're not going to hug this out. You said what you said, I said what I said, jerk, bitch,
Right.
done." That's their relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Dean gets pinched
Yep.
by the
Right
cops.
away.
Like, yep, which is awesome.
Mhm.
He can't talk his way out of it.
Right. Right. Sam escapes and he's off to find the husband of Sarah Shahi. Um, or what's her name in the show? Constance Welch,
Constance, the woman in white. Yeah.
the woman in white. So he goes off to find the husband and talk to him. Meanwhile, Dean is in the cop's office being a smartass.
Booked. Yes.
And then we see the first appearance of Dad's journal.
Which is one of the most important props in the
I
entire show.
know. Well, at least for the first 5 seasons.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Big deal saying Dad's journal. We don't know it yet, but
Right. Right. I just want to take a side moment there to say, oh my gosh, the props department,
I know.
putting because like you said, it's important for the first seasons. It's a character.
Yes.
It's a character. I
Mm.
mean, I'm not saying in the sense like it's alive, it's a character,
Right,
but
right, right.
no, as a prop, it is so pertinent to their
Mhm.
everyday lives that it's so important. It couldn't have just been like, go to Office Depot and get a leather bound journal and this will be the
Uh-huh.
journal. It's
Yeah.
like every page in it, I'm sure, had something specific about the show, about the brothers, about the
Yeah.
family in it. I'm sure there was some gag
Yes.
things
Because
in
you
it,
can't resist.
but for the most part, because of how important that prop was,
Uh-huh.
I'm sure that it was just loaded with
Yes. I loved that prop. I thought it was very powerful,
yeah,
because you could see all like the little notes and attachments and like the scribbles where he did write something in and then found new information later and then had to scratch it out or like tack
yep,
something in. All the
yep,
drawings, the pictures, the cutouts of newspapers and books,
yep,
and the way they were all
symbols,
attached. Yeah,
yep,
staple paper clips. Paper clips important for
yes.
busting out of handcuffs.
Yes. Which both brothers apparently can do.
Yes,
Very handy,
yes,
skill to have.
yes. I really, really love that prop
Yeah,
so
love
much.
that prop.
Mhm.
Good job, props department.
Okay, so appearance of Dad's journal from this cop, still being a smartass, and then he pulls out a page that says Dean and then has numbers on it. It says 35-11.
111.
111. Yes, 111. Um, in my note, it was okay. Wouldn't a cop be able to figure out that these are coordinates? I mean, I know they're
Right?
not Marine Corps or anything, but I
Right?
feel like that
It's
would be that's
clearly
the first thing that I would guess is like, this is either a combination for something
right.
or coordinates.
It's like a zip code or a
Yeah.
street name.
Yes.
I mean, it's not a phone number,
No.
it's not. Yeah, and plus, I always thought that guy, that actor, was gonna be, like, such a nemesis. I mean, granted, he is holding Dean, like,
Yeah.
arresting him, but I thought that cop was gonna be, like, a total, hindrance
Right.
to them.
Not so much.
Not
He's
so much.
Dean escapes in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, Yeah, I was like, okay, we don't see him again. We
Right.
don't see that cop again.
Right. We don't see him again after another cop comes in and says, "Oh, there's a 911 call on what was it? Whiteford Road." This is a commentary from Eric Kripke, who said that all the roads and like street names or uh, lake names, what have you, those
Mhm.
are all named after his hometown, which is Toledo, Ohio.
I've worked
I
there.
know, and I've lived there. Oh, this was another MapQuest moment that I guess we should have mentioned
Well, because they
beforehand.
didn't, but they don't go there.
They
I
don't
guess
go there, right? Right.
so. It's mentioned,
It's
but
mentioned in the commentary and not in the actual
okay,
show itself. But
that's why we did not map quest it.
yes, but that was interesting. I've not been on Whiteford Road in Toledo, Ohio, but
Road trip.
no, thank you. I have no desire to go back to Toledo. No offense
But
to
you don't want to map
Toledo.
quest
I'm
it
sorry.
and go.
I really don't. I really don't. I'm sorry,
Oh,
Toledo.
that's okay.
Uh,
That's pretty cool. So, is that where Kripke's from? Is Toledo?
yes, he's from Toledo, Ohio.
I think didn't like Matt Groening from the Simpsons do the same thing? Like a lot of his characters' names from the Simpsons are from places in Portland.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Which I would do too if I ever wrote a
little
TV
shout
show.
outs. Yeah.
Okay, so while Dean is escaped, or no, while Dean is held up at the cop's office, Sam is off talking to the husband, like we mentioned before, trying to get
Yes.
some information.
Right.
Uh,
Because his dad did talk to
mhm,
the husband. It's like again now they're getting closer to dad,
mhm.
tracking down dad.
So gets a little more information. He finds out that the husband did, in fact, cheat on his wife or was unfaithful to his wife.
Mhm. Even though he said he didn't.
He said, "I may have made mistakes." He
Ah,
he
okay.
implied he
Okay.
implied that he was unfaithful at some point, but that
Gotcha.
he still loved her, and he did not believe that.
She
sh-
murdered their children.
Yes.
He sure looks like a tortured soul to me.
Yeah. So then we learned that Sam was the one who made the fake 911 call to help get Dean out of trouble. So
Right.
something they've obviously done before, or it's like in their playbook of
Of
what
yes.
to do when you get busted.
Just break out of the handcuffs
Hmm.
and call in a fake emergency call into the sheriff's office. Note to self.
And then Sarah Shahi shows up in the car unexpectedly.
She's standing in the road,
She's standing in the
right?
road, yes,
Standing in the road, and
and he
Dean,
runs
I
over.
mean
Sam runs
Sam.
over her,
Yep.
and then she's in the car
Yes. And says,
and says, "Take me home."
"Take me home." And Sam says, "No."
No, I'm a good guy.
Says, "No, I will not." And so she turns into Christine again
Yeah.
and drives the car for him.
Yes, drives the car for him,
Yep.
gets to the house, and then forces herself on him. But this was like really creepy and glitchy special effects, I thought.
Oh, with her attacking him?
Yes, she's like really, her movements are really jerky and she keeps like glitching in and out. Her
She like becomes like like a skeleton. You
yeah,
like
she's like
see her.
transparent and
Yeah.
layered. It's very
Gross. Yeah.
yeah, it's really scary. Not very often do they use these effects for
Types effects, yes.
ghosts.
And but they using them on this one was super effective.
Oh my god, it
Like
worked.
super scary.
It was scary. Because it reminded me of like The Ring or The Grudge, those kinds
Oh,
of
oh gosh.
creepy kid movies.
Yes. Yes. It's just because it's so, and I hate to say it's unnatural. Um,
Right. But it
the
is.
way the way their bodies move and stuff like that, it
Mhm.
just is like, ooh, ooh,
Mhm.
it's not human. It is clearly not human.
And it's also unnatural. Like almost directly after that, when Sam literally drives the car into the house to get her home.
And he's like, I'll take you home.
Yeah, yeah. And then Constance, with her ghost mind, shoves a dresser and tries to crush Sam and Dean.
Mhm.
Then you see this water just coming down from the stairs.
Creepy.
It's spooky water. And I wrote that in my notes. It was like the spooky water. And then the commentator is just like, water is spooky.
I wrote down water is scary.
It is.
Because like water outside of its natural, I mean, water's just scary because you don't know. You
Yes.
can't always see what's under it. You can't know why is it. It doesn't belong coming down the stairs. It doesn't belong
Yeah.
cooling out of the ceiling. Something is wrong when water is not the ocean.
Right.
You know?
Not the ocean or the bathtub or what have you.
Right.
But it's also like black water. Or at least the lighting is so dark it looks like black water. And so you're
Yeah.
not sure what it actually is. I don't
Water
know.
is scary.
It is scary.
Absolutely.
And so are these freaking scary children that pop up
Oh,
on the top of the stairs.
ghost children are always creepy. I wrote
Yep.
it twice. Creepy ghost children dash always creepy. Ghost children are always creepy because you probably never see their faces, like they're always shrouded. But the
Yeah.
fact that kids are just like, especially like two of them standing together, like hand to
Mhm.
hand,
Mhm.
ooh, very creepy. So her
Yes.
drowned children
Down
appear,
with the
wet,
spooky water,
spooky water.
and then
What's going on?
suddenly appear down towards her, and then some really crazy special effects happen while they drag her down to, I assume, is hell.
I would assume hell as well if you murdered your children.
Right.
Yeah, so they grab her. They're like, "Mommy, you're home."
Yeah, great. Let's go.
I'm so glad you're here. And then no words, just crazy ghost killing
Yeah,
effects. She's
demon things going on. I don't know. It
dragged
was,
into a puddle and down to hell through
uh
the
huh.
puddle.
Yes.
Oh, and scary.
Yeah.
Because there's like all these like skulls and creepy. It's not just like a ghost being dragged to hell.
Hmm.
It's like the ghost is the demon of the ghost is trying to escape, but the kids are still dragging it down. And oh, it's well done. Well done.
Yes. Yes.
Little applause there for the special effects
Hmm.
department. And so therefore Dean and Sam are released from the grip of
Yes.
the furniture.
Yes. The furniture. And then this is where we learn that Dean loves his car more than life. Because he
Ah,
says, and I swear to God, if, what did he say? If you hurt this car, I'll kill you.
right.
Or something
Right.
like that.
Oh my gosh. And which of course he has damaged the car because he drove it into a house.
Yes. But Dean also shot the window with the gun
Oh,
at
that's
the
right.
ghost.
He was shooting bullets at a ghost.
Yes. And
Yeah.
broke his window in the process. So he can also blame himself for that.
Yeah. Although Sam kind of calls him out for that. He's like, "What are you doing shooting at Casper?"
Right.
That's pretty funny. Which is interesting because he was just shooting at a ghost,
Right.
but he
Yeah.
was doing whatever he could to save his
And
brother.
then Dean takes Sam home because he's got this interview with law school, and Sam is determined to get back to his normal
Normal.
life
Mhm.
because he's worked for it. And I don't blame him, frankly.
I don't
Like,
blame
this
him
was my
either.
decision and I'm going to stick
Right.
with it.
Right. Finding dad is not his crusade, it's Dean's.
So then Sam walks in the house. The shower is running. So we assume Jess is in the shower
Mhm. Honey,
until,
I'm home.
yep, until he lays down, opens his eyes, and we see the second female of the show in a white nightgown. Was she in a nightgown? I don't know. She
I
was
would
on
say
this,
yes because
maybe.
because Mary was
Yeah.
in a in a nightgown, like the type
Yes.
of nightgown that no woman ever wears.
Yeah, the Ebenezer Scrooge nightgown.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And it turns out Jess is in one too, which is funny that they didn't like keep her in
Smurf
some
shirt.
sort of Smurf shirt or something similar.
Yeah.
Oh, why was she in?
But maybe she was. Maybe I'm remembering incorrectly. But anyway, she's on the ceiling. That's the most important part of
Yes,
this.
she would be
She's on the
suspended on the ceiling
yeah.
in with her leg in a weird
Hmm.
unnatural position,
Dripping blood, and then
bursting into flame.
yes.
Exactly the same way that his mother did. Their
Mm.
mother did. Now that the house is on fire, Dean comes running back in, grabs Sam, saves
Hmm.
Sam,
Hmm.
you know, so distraught that he can't leave a burning house. And yet another house bursts into flames. And I have to ask, who was in the shower?
Right.
Who was in the shower? If Jess was on the ceiling,
Right.
who was in the shower? Dun dun dun.
Well, I would assume that she was in the shower or was about to start the shower, and then the demon
I think the
threw her
demon
up.
did it to trick Sam.
Yes. Yes.
just the same way.
to make him relaxed and just assume everything's okay.
Yep. 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 So that's the other thing is that I think the demon was in the house both times. It wasn't like the demon
Mhm.
did something and left. It was in the house when the boys were in the house when they were little.
Mhm.
So when it caught fire, the demon was there, and this time the demon was still in the house
Yeah.
when Sam was there. So
Right. Right.
creepy.
Mhm. But
Creepy.
this moment, this unfortunate moment, is what gives Sam finally the motivation to go off with Dean
To join the hunt.
to join the hunt, because now he's just like, I want to find this thing that killed my girlfriend
Right.
and my mother. But
Right, but more so my girlfriend,
Mhm.
because what's that TV trope where a female has to die in order to
Oh,
motivate the reluctant hero to take up the
yes.
mission?
Which is not, I do not like that trope. I find it very lazy, and it happens twice in this
A
episode.
Absolutely. The only thing I can say, in defense, not defense, in, well, maybe in defense, is that that particular trope, usually the female who's killed is never mentioned again,
Right.
is usually just forgotten,
Mhm.
um, because it's just a motivator to get the hero to act. But both of these women are mentioned, and their deaths are mentioned
Mhm. Yeah.
throughout. Not every episode,
Yeah.
and it does, fade out after a while. So that's the only
Yeah.
thing I can say is that they do harken back to these two women,
Right.
who were killed.
Right.
But still, it's a stupid trope that women have to die in order for
I
the
know.
hero to become a hero.
Right. And and despite how much I don't like this trope, I do kind of like how they made it a full circle moment like this.
Mm,
Where it was like an identical tragedy. It was like a sandwich. The top of the episode and then the end of the episode,
right,
and it's
right.
within the same family. And then later we find out that it's definitely a calculated move
Yeah,
from
right,
the
right,
bad
right,
guy. So,
right.
I did like that. I liked
Mhm,
how it was somebody else in his life that he cared about was,
mhm.
murdered in the exact same, very
Exact.
unique way.
Same nightgown.
Yes.
Same wound that they're bleeding from.
Yes. Yes. But I also have to say that I think if I had started watching this show from this first episode, um, now, like if it had started now, I
Mhm.
don't know if I would have kept watching it. Because Dean was not very appealing to me in this first episode.
Right, because he's a douchebag.
Uh-huh. And this, you know, oh great, kill the mom, kill the girlfriend, just so they
Right, and because
can
because
go be a hero.
yeah, Sam isn't there, he's not that appealing yet.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's like comes off as the good guy, yeah, or like the um moral compass, maybe, or maybe not
Oh,
even,
yeah,
maybe
right.
a
No,
little
no,
slightly.
well, slightly, but he's supposed to be you're supposed to be intrigued by his character's journey now.
Yeah,
Like, you're supposed to care about him enough to want him to succeed in this new journey to
yeah,
find his girlfriend's killer.
yeah,
Whereas Dean, it's like, yeah, they need to find their dad, but they need to find their dad to find, you know, why do they need to find the dad? um, because he's missing.
right,
But that becomes, that's not as apparently not as important as finding, this killer of women on ceilings.
right. It's interesting, like how much I do love this show now,
Hmm.
which I think eventually they did finally listen to their female audience and turn things around and start to be better about
Yeah,
things.
recognize women as women and not
Mm,
as plot lines.
yes,
Yeah, or
or
as
or as horn
plot
dogs,
crutches,
horn dog targets.
right?
Um, so I don't know. I don't really know where I was going with that. It was just interesting to rewatch this episode and find so many things that I was not a fan of or that I did not connect with.
Mhm.
What I
Mhm.
did connect with though was the chemistry between Sam and Dean, or
Mhm.
Jensen and Jared, and how likable they were as brothers.
Yeah.
and their
Absolutely.
relationship. And, you know, it didn't feel forced. It didn't feel fake. It didn't feel like corny writing, um, or too corny writing, you know, so there were some.
No chick flick moments. No, absolutely. I mean, they each have their own journey, but when they come together, when they work together, they even say this in the car. Hey, you and I made a really good team. Like when they started out, they didn't start out like, hey, we're brothers. Let's go do this thing. But they realized that in looking in chasing down this ghost, that they actually realized that, hey, we are brothers.
Hmm.
Um, and I I like strong male characters. I like it when male characters can admit that they are men and they have feelings and connections. And I'm not talking in any type of sexual manner. I
Hmm.
mean emotionally.
Hmm.
Um, because that's one of those things that that there's a s- a theory, that these characters are actually gay lovers, and it's like, no, they're brothers.
Fan fiction, yes.
Yeah, it's like, can we just let that go and just let them be brothers? Let men be men. They can be emotional, but they can also be strong.
You're right.
And, and these two characters have the makings of that, and I do gravitate towards that.
Yeah.
I enjoy strong male characters who, while flawed, clearly,
Hmm.
uh, still have an emotional connection to each other.
Right.
And so that's probably what would keep me watching. I don't remember what made me tune in for the second episode. But like I said, I think I knew the characters from down the
Right.
line.
Hmm.
So going back to see their beginnings, I was intrigued to see what their history was, where they came from.
Yes, I would agree with
So
that as well. Is I kind of got to know them later on and then had to start from the beginning.
mhm,
So it forgave a lot of things, I think, when
yeah,
I was watching this first episode.
yeah. So I wouldn't tune into the second episode to be like, what's this ghost story going to be? What are they
Mm,
chasing down? This week. That's
mm-hmm,
not what would make me tune in.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
It to me it's I think it started out as a ghost show,
mm-hmm.
as a ghost monster show,
Yeah,
but then it turned into the brothers,
yeah,
more story about the brothers, which is what grabbed me as
right,
as a female watching the show. That's what grabbed me.
right,
Well,
right.
that and the X-Files,
Yeah.
references. Um, but yeah, I would say I would be in the same boat as you. Like
Hmm.
if we watched one episode and then you'd be like, "Hey, you want to watch this next week?" I'd be like, "Meh."
Yeah, exactly.
If anything, I would watch it to see what X-Files stuff they did. Um,
Right.
that's I'd give it a second chance, but it wasn't something that I would flip through a TV guide and find out what time is it going to be on next week. And
Mhm, mhm. Oh, TV
so
Guide.
TV, I know, answering machine, cassette tapes, MapQuest,
Right, all this
TV
old tech.
guide, antennas on your television.
Okay, so thank you so much for tuning into our very first episode of Salt and
Oh
Burn
my gosh,
This.
that was
It
fun.
was so long. It's okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We'll get
Yes,
better.
maybe. No promises.
We'll just be here.
We'll
We'll
be
just put
here.
that
We'll
out
be
there.
here. So, uh, stay tuned for next week when we do the second episode, Wendigo.
Wendigo.
Yeah, I don't know what it
Okay.
is. I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out
All
Wendigo.
right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.